Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Honourable Government bench today have told you that the EU's recognition of the independent state of Kosovo has opened a Pandora's box. Their solution is to carry on opening every Pandora's box they can find for the sake of maintaining consistency. We, on the opposition, think that there might be a better way. I'm going to summarise this debate by looking at three key areas. I'm going to deal very, very quickly with the arguments of the opening government bench that Abkhazia should be an independent state, based as they were on the Montevideo principles. Then I'm going to look at whether EU recognition, which is the crucial part of the motion that most of the first half of the debate seem to ignore, is a good thing both for the state of Abkhazia and for the EU as a whole. And in both instances, I'm going to tell you that this is not the case. But to summarise the first half of the debate, we heard a lot about the Montevideo principles. We heard a lot about the distinct people of Abkhazia, about their willingness and their desire to be independent. The one Montevideo principle that was ignored by the opening government is the requirement to maintain good relations with your neighbours. We think that might be problematic in the case of Abkhazia, but even then, we are willing, as a bench, as we have done consistently, to concede that Abkhazia may conform to the principles of nationhood. But as Inga told you, if all you want is some international recognition, well, they have it. So, yay for us, we win on that one, no thanks, sit down. Secondly, we come to this idea of whether the EU as a body should be the one to recognise it. We heard nothing, surprisingly, about the distinction between individual member states giving that recognition, which is entirely possible and can be done on a state-by-state basis. And we say that's a pretty important idea that you need to explore and to dismiss if you're going to insist on a singular acceptance by the EU body. And we give you the example of Kosovo, where the EU as a policy recognised it, and yet the member states of Spain and Greece refused to because they didn't like the implications of doing so. We say, well, you're going to create exactly the same situation. You're going to create division and tension within the EU, and also you do create further division and tension. We don't think talking about the future is to escape the real world, because you know what? We reckon our real world has a future, so we're prepared to talk about that. What we are not prepared to do is to accept Georgia into NATO and at the same time do something that directly and deeply enhances the divisions within the NATO structure. So we say that's problematic for government and they failed to deal with it.
Sir.
No, next on this, we say that the EU simply cannot continue the precedent of Kosovo and was in fact very careful to state that Kosovo should not be seen as precedent because it creates issues for both France and Spain with the semi-autonomous region of the Basque countries, because it creates regions for the democratic government in Greece, both with the recognition of Northern Cyprus, where the EU only admitted the southern half of the island into its body, and for those lands still within Greece, which they choose to refer to as Macedonia, obviously causing a problem for the people of, oh yes, Macedonia. Then we go on and we say that there are further separatist issues in northern Italy and in southern Austria, where people are claiming a different ethnicity and a right to statehood on the basis of economic prowess, wishing to cut themselves free from the poorer parts of their own country. We say the moment you start allowing more and more states independence irrespective of the consequences, which can be easily foreseen and prevented, we say that is problematic. So let me get on to this idea of whether the EU recognising Abkhazia is good for Abkhazia itself. Well, the government weren't quite clear about what it would or wouldn't do, because the first half of the government, despite denying the idea from opening opposition that it was a puppet state of Russia, in Oskar's own words said, we need to stop it from any longer being a puppet state of Russia. Robert then told us that we need to stop it from becoming a puppet state of Russia. So either it is and we need to stop it, or it's not and we need to stop it happening. Which one of you is wrong, guys, and why? You should have told us. Secondly, we say, when NATO, when the EU, when empirically Western-idealed bodies take action in Russia's near abroad, Russia sees this in much the same way as the bloody nose it was dealt by Saakashvili in South Ossetia. Russia does not take kindly to this. The reason that Russia is supportive currently of Abkhazia's independence is not because it thinks it can run it as a puppet state, but because it is following following the principle it was told it had to follow regarding Kosovo, which it in fact proposed. And we say, well, that's fine. But we say to go further, to say that Abkhazia should be made overtures towards by the EU would be seen as nothing more in Russia as the first step towards Abkhazian accession into the EU. That creates a Russian backlash, that prevents true Abkhazian independence, for the sake of the Abkhazians, for the sake of unity in the EU, for the sake of not allowing Kosovo to become the precedent Pandora's box we all fear. We proudly stand in opposition.